I think happiness is love. Terrorists are always a threat to someone. If we'll be scared of them, it means they have won. I swim almost every day, 1,000 meters. If you want my personal attitude, I would tell you that I don't care about a person's sexual orientation. I think we should not control the internet. History proves that all dictatorships, all authoritarian forms of government are transient. Only democratic systems are not transient. Whatever the shortcomings, mankind has not devised anything superior. We are all different, but when we ask for the Lord's blessings, we must not forget that God created us equal. In many countries today, moral and ethical norms are being reconsidered. National traditions, differences in nation and culture are being erased. You can swim any way you like in the Dead Sea, actually. I have a very positive attitude to anyone who is protecting the environment, but it's inadmissible when people are using it as a means of promoting themselves, using it as a source of self-enrichment. I don't want to name any specific examples, but often, environmentalism is used to blackmail companies. I see that not everyone in the West has understood that the Soviet Union has disappeared from the political map of the world, and that a new country has emerged with new humanist and ideological principles at the foundation of its existence. Where in the world have you seen construction people who do everything on time, with good quality and at minimal prices? Just give me one country like that. A country like that doesn't exist in the world, you know. There's not one such country anywhere in the world. The leaders of the world's largest economies agreed during the November 2008 G20 summit not to create barriers hindering global trade and capital flows. Russia shares these principles. My parents told me that children were taken from their families in 1941, and my mother had a child taken from her, with the goal of saving him. Demographers affirm that choosing to have a second child is already a potential choice in favor of a third. I spend a little time every day to play sports. If there are people who act outside the law, then the state must use legal means to impose law in the interests of majority. That's the way it's done in the US, and that's the way it's done in Russia. US society doesn't want to play the role of international policeman. As far as oligarchs who acquire sports team abroad and invest money abroad, I wouldn't treat this phenomenon as something bad. The state security bodies should not be seen as an institution that works against society and the state. One needs to understand what makes them work against their own people. The path towards a free society has not been simple. There are tragic and glorious pages in our history. What is a unipolar world? No matter how we beautify this term, it means one single center of power, one single center of force, and one single master. Despite all the achievements of civilization, the human being is still one of the most vulnerable creatures on Earth. Economic activity is moving from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Russia has a certain natural advantage because it also borders the Pacific Ocean. We don't need a weakened government, but a strong government that would take responsibility for the rights of the individual and care for the society as a whole. Between major countries, there certainly always are some common ground and points of tension. Thieves must sit in prison. What is a rechtsstaat? It is obedience to the existing law. I am not prejudiced in any way. One can truly enjoy his or her life only while experiencing it, and it is inevitably related to a certain level of risk. President Obama hasn't been elected by the American people in order to be pleasant to Russia. Millions around the world increasingly see America not as a model of democracy, but as relying solely on brute force, cobbling coalitions together under the slogan, "You're either with us or against us." I myself know some people who are gay. We're on friendly terms. I'm not prejudiced in any way. Anyone who doesn't regret the passing of the Soviet Union has no heart. Anyone who wants it restored has no brains. It's alarming that military intervention in internal conflicts in foreign countries has become commonplace for the United States. There are both things in international law: the principle of territorial integrity and right to self-determination. Nobody and nothing will stop Russia on the road to strengthening democracy and ensuring human rights and freedoms. Indeed, Russia and the US were allies during the two tragic conflicts of the Second and the First World Wars, which allows us to think there's something objectively bringing us together in difficult times, and I believe it has to do with geopolitical interests and also has a moral component. I have never stated Russia is an energy superpower, but we have more reserves than almost anybody else. We have always behaved, and we will continue to behave, in a responsible way. We intend to participate in the elaboration of common rules in the energy sector and to abide by rules which are developed together. The growing economic potential of India and Russia is mutually complementary in many respects. Libya is divided into tribes and clans. Russia does not and cannot have any political choice but democracy. I want to say, and even stress, that we share those universal democratic principles taken around the whole world. The Russian people have their own cultural code, their own tradition. McCain fought in Vietnam. I think that he has enough civilian blood on his hands. For Russia, there is not, and there may not be another political option but democracy. However, Russian democracy is not at all the realization of standards imposed on us from outside. How can a bureaucrat or a politician be trusted if he says loud words for the sake of Russia's good, while trying to take his funds, his money abroad? The democratic choice Russian people made in the early 90s is final. My working and personal relationship with President Obama is marked by growing trust. I appreciate this. Russia does not want confrontation of any kind, and we will not take part in any kind of holy alliance. I am convinced that the norm in Russia should become a family with 3 children. At a certain point, we saw the police cracking down on the Occupy Wall Street activists. I won't call the actions of police appropriate or inappropriate. I would prefer to abandon the terminology of the past. Superpower is something which we used during the Cold War time. Why use it now? Russia is opposed to the proliferation of mass destruction weapons, including nuclear weapons, and in this context we call upon our Iranian friends to abandon the uranium enrichment program. Cromwell is just as much of a bloody dictator as was Stalin. Few people understand the magnitude of the catastrophe that happened late in the 1980s when the Communist Party had failed to modernize the Soviet Union. Our society, including the liberals, must understand that there must be order. The Russian people and Russian culture are the linchpin, the glue that binds together this unique civilization. The whole world recognizes Russia's cultural achievements. It is impossible to imagine the world culture without Russian culture, without our music and literature.